right, cool. So, hey, everybody, welcome to the Genius Lab podcast. Today we are sipping some Cafe Umbria.
I love this stuff.
Yeah, it's good. We have it every week when CJ comes over. This is CJ Lambert.
Hello.
He and I are with a guy named Chris Law, started Hear the Hope about 5 years ago. And CJ and I have been meeting on Tuesdays ever since. And it's just, we just got things going. We have had so much fun, and it's been really fun over the last 5 years to watch the evolution of CJ going from day corporate job guy with a little bit of music to a lot of music, and hopefully sooner than later, no corporate job. But
no more security.
No more security.
That's what that is. That's my security check.
Yeah. So thanks for being here, man.
Yeah,
I really
thanks for
appreciate
having
it
me
a
on.
lot.
This is awesome.
So this is the first time I videoed, so you guys just bear with us. But hey, it's fun. The theme here in the Genius Lab podcast is realize your greatness. And I've been doing for 2 years, I've been doing just a solo act, telling you guys different techniques that I've used to realize my greatness, to come into being the best that I can be, and bringing the best that I've got to the world. And I decided in 2023, I'm going to shift to an interview process, and CJ's was willing to be our very first one. And so we'll see how it goes. But so I talk about realizing your greatness, and what does that mean to you? If you think about, realizing your greatness, what is that for you?
Yeah, well, I like how you're asking that. How is it for me? Because it's different for everybody.
Yeah.
Everyone has different measurements on what they consider great, and success. What does it mean for me? Man, waking up every day, loving what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Loving the family.
Yeah.
That my wife and I created. And
yeah,
man, I don't know where to go from there. Yeah. Being grateful for everything that you have in your life. Yeah.
Wow. That's beautiful. Yet how many of you wake up every morning and are like, wow, I get to live another day? I was listening to a guy named Paul Selig when I was on my walk yesterday, and he was going on about this thing about the external life and how the external reality actually lives within us. And I remember, and it really hit me, because I'm glad you said that, CJ, about like your family, because I remember being on a beach in Kauai. It was like 6 o'clock in the morning. The sun was coming up. I had just gotten to the island the night before, and I was so happy to be there. And I'm sitting next to a friend of mine who was really going through a hard time. And I looked at him and I said, man, look at this, a new day of possibilities, beautiful sunrise, beautiful ocean. And he turned to me and there was a tear rolling down his cheek. And he said, all as I see is another day of pain, and I wonder if I'll make it through.
Oh man.
Externally, we were seeing exactly the same thing. Internally, we had a completely different view, even though we were sitting at the same place. So, what a beautiful thing. I wake up every morning and I have my wonderful family, and wow, yeah, that's greatness.
I don't know who said this. I'm sure multiple people have, but like, how much do you value that day, getting out of bed? Like, I mean, we've all been there. Let's say you have a bunch of stuff going on and you don't want to get out of bed in the morning. Try to think about it. Like, how much is that day worth to you? So if somebody came to you and said, hey, I will give you $1 million today, but you're going to die tomorrow. Like, if you take that money, would you take it? And like, well, no.
Hell no.
So, what if it was $10 million? Like, no, no amount of money is going to buy your last day.
Yeah.
So how much is that day really worth to you? It's worth more than all all the money you can imagine.
And so much today, everything's about money. It's the matrix it's what measures everything. You know, if a company is successful, it doesn't matter if they're providing a service to millions of people and making their lives better. If they're not profitable, they're not a good company. You know, and a person, you know, what do you do? It's almost the first question anybody ever asks you when they meet you. And, you know, one thing that I have noticed about you, CJ, and the growth that I've seen you in terms of what you love to do in let's say music production, for example. When I met CJ, I have a little red book over here. Can you hand me that book right there?
You're funny, man. I love this.
Yeah,
I love it.
So this is the Pro Tools Manual, CJ Method of Production. Right there, I have it scratched in with a Sharpie. And this book has all my notes of all the times that CJ and I have been together producing music. He taught me everything I know. And he's come a long way. I just realized last time we were working on a song, he goes, oh, use this different limiter and use this different compressor. And then we're going to use this other EQ thing. Well, what about those? Well, that's what I did a couple of years ago. Now I found a better way. And so it's constant improvement. And so a lot of times success, achieving what we want to, if we identify success by achieving what it is we set out to achieve. A lot of success is followed by adversity and hard work, and sometimes shitty stuff happens, but when you get through it, you've learned such an incredible lesson. And I remember you telling me one time somebody sent you a project and files were all over the place.
Oh, yeah.
And it was like, you know,
that happens a lot.
Yeah. So it's not all just like glamour, like you see in the movies, you know, with the Beach Boys singing and the producer and the engineer back there sliding the things and everybody's smiling.
Oh, that's funny.
What kind of adversity have you had that you've had to overcome to get where you are now?
Man, well, I agree with that statement and I kind of don't. So yeah, we all see adversity in our lives at some point. Yeah, I don't want to just sound cliched, but yeah, if you get knocked down, how do you get up?
Right.
There's a lot of truth behind that. But at the same time, there's also greatness that comes out of something that's effortless. You don't have to have adversity to experience greatness or success. I kind of feel like that's what society puts on us.
Okay. If
we want to have this huge accomplishment, oh man, you have to pay your dues. You have to swim upstream. That's not always true.
That's a good point.
But then again, it comes down to the journey. So let me just think of it. Like I've been playing guitar for almost 30 years now. Back when I was really learning, as a teenager, I would go to school, come home, I'd play for 2 or 3 hours, have my dinner, eat a little bit, and do some homework, and then play for 2 or 3 more hours. So every day, you know, I'm playing 4 to 6 hours of guitar every single day, and I did that for years. Like that never felt like I was putting in effort. It was just something I did.
So someone might look at that and say, wow, he really struggled and worked hard.
Or you really had to practice. Like it never felt like practice. Never. Or
it was that way with me with the drums. I would go in and I would play for hours. I would stack records on my parents' phonograph. And they were usually Beatles albums. And back in the old days, you had this long stem and you could put like 4 or 5 albums.
Yeah.
That was several hours worth of music. And I would just play along with it. And if anybody said, you know, how do you spend so much time practicing? I'm like, I don't.
It's just what you do.
You just, what you do. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that goes back to what I said earlier, like starting your day off. And, you know, if it doesn't feel like work, then it just comes easy. I don't know.
I love it.
I don't know if I'm making sense on that, but
totally. And you know, if you think about it, your greatness, you could almost say that your greatness is the thing that comes easiest to you because it's the most truth of who you are.
Well, sure. Yeah. And I think that's where people get hung up. I hear it all the time from people. Well, I don't know what to do with my life. I have these interests. I don't know what to do. All that means is like you need to try several different things until something lights you up. And when it does, you push, you run with it.
One of the things we've been doing for 5 years is working basically for free, helping little kids' dreams come true and helping veterans' dreams come true and making really cool music and bring them into a studio where they can like feel like they're a rock star.
Yeah.
And we love it. Yeah. Boy, would it be nice to get paid? Heck yeah. but it's so cool that we love doing it even when we don't.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a path that CJ and I every year we look at each other. So do we do it again? And we're like, hell yeah. We just had this cool little kid, Bodie.
Yeah, Bodie.
Yeah. Go to hearthehope.org and check it out. It'll probably be in the archives by the time you get this podcast, but check it out. The story about Bodie, man, what a tearjerker. And CJ and I wrote the song one day, and then CJ took it to his parents, and the mom burst into tears. and
mission accomplished.
Mission accomplished. And then he worked with these kids to record this thing, and it's a beautiful song. But when you see the smile on their face and the response of the parents, in some cases, the kids that we've worked with, that has been the legacy that the child has left behind. We've worked with a lot of cancer patients and kids that are terminally ill. And
since you're talking about adversity, can we talk about how Hear the Hope started?
Yes, please do.
Just briefly. We'll spare the details. So my wife and I have 2 boys. Our youngest one has Down syndrome, and he was in the NICU for over 3 weeks at the very beginning of his life. So yeah, he had a life-saving surgery when he was a week old. That's adversity, man.
Yeah.
Wondering like if your kid's gonna make it, and it sucked. I don't know. There's no other way to say it. But after being in the NICU, after we got him through his surgery, we realized, he's going to come home, like this will be all right. It's just life isn't going to look like exactly how we imagined.
Yeah.
That's fine. Does it ever? I mean, it's always a little different than what you expect.
Yeah.
But while we were in there, looking around at some of the other kids, like some were in there for 6 months, some others a full year, and some others that were not even going to get out. And my wife and I quickly realized, like, we are the lucky ones. Like, we're going to bring our baby home. So fast forward a little bit, we bring him home, and we get hit with a bunch of bills, and this is adversity at its best, man. Like, medical.
It's bad enough that you have to go through the trauma of a child that almost didn't make it.
Rough entry.
And then oh, by the way.
Yeah. So we get a bunch of bills coming in, and Toby happened to know our other Hear the Hope co-founder. At the time, he worked for Children's Hospital, and we figured out, like, we were just kicking around ideas like, hey, let's give back, let's do a fundraiser for the hospital. And that was kind of how Hear the Hope started.
Yeah.
We were going to do one project, but then it turned into a monthly endeavor.
Yeah. One of the doctors heard about us, and he said, I haven't played guitar since medical school. Can I do a song with you guys?
Absolutely.
And we're like, heck yeah.
Yeah. So I guess in a way it's that's adversity. It's turning your mess into a mission.
Yeah. Yeah. I like it.
Yeah.
Good. Thanks for sharing that, CJ, because that's an important story.
Yeah.
And it's easy when you get into the grind of things to forget, like I don't think about how we got started very often, but when I go back on it, I'm like, yeah, that was really fun. And it was, we were going to do one project.
Yeah.
And here it is. 5 years later, here we are.
Yeah. Very cool.
Jeez.
Yeah.
That's wild. So do you have any regrets?
I hate that word. but yes. No, I'm joking. Any regrets, man? I mean, there's always stuff that, everyone listening to this, they can think of things. Yeah, I wish I did that a little differently.
I remember there was a band that you worked with that was going on a huge tour.
Oh, geez.
And you didn't go on the tour.
Yeah.
Tell us a little about that.
Oh, man. Yeah. I'm sure.
I know everything works out how it's supposed to and all that kind of, stuff, but.
Yeah, you all know some of these songs too. So 2 number ones and 7 top 40s. Jeez, man. Well, anyway, yeah, there was a fork in the road for me. I was leaving this well-established band, and I was joining a new one. I just wanted to change, and right when my foot is out the door, and I feel like this always happens. It's like right when you're about to leave, there's something grabbing you and like trying to pull you back in. Like I've heard this analogy, like you throw a bunch of crabs in a bucket and they all try to climb out, but the other crabs are just like climbing, like pulling them back in. Like none of them can get out. Anyway, so that's very random, but so yeah, the fork in the road, and the band that I was leaving was just leaving on this worldwide tour, going to Hawaii, Alaska, Japan, Guam. I think New Zealand was on that, like a lot of really cool places. Well, I turned it down, and I don't want to say I regret that. I don't. I would have loved to see the world like in that way. It was a 7-week tour. But that band that I joined, we ended up, getting a record deal. We got to work with an industry veteran, which is really cool. So I don't know if I regret it. That's not the right word. I don't know if I'd really change it either. The more I think about it,
yeah.
I mean, there's great stuff that came out of that decision. Anyway,
cool. So what do you think if I were to ask you, because some people, there's all kinds of different metrics. You talked earlier about how, so many people use money as a metric. This is, I'm successful because I have this net worth, and you're not successful because you don't have that net worth. But then there's lots of other accomplishments. I remember sitting with my dad just a month or so before he passed away, and I had always wanted my dad to be proud of me. And
he was, man. I'm sure.
And when I was in the athletic shoe business, I made a lot of money. Mm-hmm. So I had the new BMW, I had the Armani and Versace suits, man. I'd come in, I'd take my dad out to the nicest restaurants, and waiting for him to be proud of me. Mm. And we were sitting watching a Seahawks game in the family room of the house where I was raised. And I remember my dad, just out of the blue, it was like a Budweiser commercial or something. He looks at me and he said, "Do you know how many people are alive today because of your healing work?"
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, I've never thought about that once. I never kept score that way. But it was so funny because what he was proud of had nothing to do with how much money I made. Mm-hmm. It was my impact on the world and healing people. And it really hit home. If you can't find the good in yourself, if you can't find the greatness, maybe you're looking in the wrong place. Maybe you're keeping score. It's like you're playing football, but you're keeping basketball score. It would be really frustrating to score a touchdown and only get 1 point, right? You get 7 or 6 when you score a touchdown. Maybe you're keeping score to a different game, and maybe it's not the game that you're in. And I remember doing some research one time when I was working with, I was looking at veteran suicide when I was working with an organization that helped treat post-traumatic stress. And I came upon this statistic. I don't even know how, but it was 20 of the death of deca millionaires, so people worth more than $10 million. The suicide rate was 26% of decamillionaire deaths. 26% were from suicide.
Wow.
And I'm like, who would be a multimillionaire and kill themselves? You know, it seems like that would be the answer to all the problems if we look at all the commercials that we see on TV or whatever. But it really hit me that it really didn't. Maybe there's another way to keep score. And I would say for those of you out there who are struggling or feeling stuck, you know, let's look at how you're keeping score that's causing the turmoil. CJ, you could have given up really easily. You know, wow, we got a Down syndrome kid that's going to need help for the rest of his life. We now have gazillion dollars worth of hospital bills. Shit, I'm off to Mexico. You know, let Kelly deal with it.
Yeah, right.
But you didn't. And now what you've got is greatness supreme. You know, Hudson's just an amazing little kid. He's come to the golf tournament a couple times that we do for Children's Hospital. And so what would you say is your biggest accomplishment?
I'd say my family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How much do they make?
No, that's so wrong, man.
It is. It's so wrong. Oh.
Biggest accomplishment. Yeah. I mean, I think, yeah, the family is a result of everything that we've done, like my wife and I together. It's like taking up all the best qualities of your past and putting them in.
Right on.
Yeah. It's
yeah.
Very cool.
So if you had one piece of information, one bit of wisdom to impart to someone watching this or listening to this that's struggling, like I've dealt with this with people that I've worked with. They're like, greatness. I don't have any greatness. What are you talking about? What advice would you give someone who wants to be okay with themselves? And you know, when I say make an impact in the world, I don't necessarily mean you got to be world famous, but I mean, you're here for a reason, and whatever that reason is, what advice would you give to someone to find their passion and find their genius?
Man, that's a good question. I would say clarity is number one. Get clear on what you really want out of life. I think life reciprocates. So some people call it the law of attraction or whatever you want to call it, but I truly believe 100% if you want something, then you give that. So
Got it.
If you want more love in your life, then love. If you want more generosity in your life coming to you, be generous. If you want to, I don't anything, like if you say, hey, I need a better work ethic, then get to work.
Got it.
Then whatever you want, give. And I truly believe that it comes back more.
Beautiful.
Yeah, totally. And I'll add one thing because you brought up your dad.
Yeah.
My dad was a huge impact on me in my life. He always had 3 rules growing up that he would drive into all of us kids. One thing, never tell yourself you can't do something. If I ever, I remember, like I would walk into his office. He'd be there doing something on the computer. And he's like, what's going on? I'm like, I can't do, like, he would yell at me, stop that. Like, you thought I'd like dropped an F-bomb as a little kid. Like, you could not, like, can't was the worst 4-letter word in our house. His other rule was do your best, not be the best, do your best.
Yeah, I like
no matter
that.
what you do,
Mm-hmm.
you have to do the best that you can. No matter what, no question. And then the last one was visualize.
Oh,
yeah. So like my brothers and I we were into sports a little bit growing up. He would always say, like, see it happen. Like he would imagine, like if you're at the foul line, like shooting a basket, he's like, you see it happen, you go through the motion first, and then you do it. Always visualize.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah, those are the 3 rules to life in my book. So
I love it.
yeah.
They're good ones. And hopefully this has been helpful for all of you. And we're going to post the video on my YouTube channel, and we're going to have the audio on the Genius Lab podcast. Share it with your friends. If you have something to say about realizing your greatness, get in touch with me, Toby at tobychristensen.com. And let's do a podcast together. CJ, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for letting me do this.
Man,
this is awesome.
I love first one, man.
No, I love that you're doing this. You're going to talk with a lot of great people that have good insight. It's going to help a lot of people out there. It's freaking awesome.
Well, I appreciate you doing it.
Yeah, thanks, man.
All right, everybody. Thank you. We'll see you next week.